everyone. I'm going to get us started tonight. If you could please mute yourself if you haven't already, just so that we can reduce background noise because we are recording this. And welcome, everybody. My name is Ruth Kapelis. I'm the National Content and Media Relations Manager here at Breakthrough T1D. On behalf of everyone, I'd like to welcome you tonight to our education series. And we're looking forward to present you with more information on mental health and T1D. If you've been with us before, but this is your first time this year, you may have noticed that we have a new name, Breakthrough T1D. We have a new name, but it is our same mission. We are a global leader working towards a world free from type 1 diabetes through research, funding, and advocacy. We support people and families in the T1D community from the time of diagnosis by helping those living with T1D to have better, healthier, and safer lives while working to find cures. Our new name is more reflective of the work we do to support anyone with T1D at any age or any stage, including the often underrepresented adult community. I'd also like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that the Breakthrough T1D Canada National Support Office is located on the traditional lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee and the Wendat peoples. The education series offers information on a new topic of importance to the T1D community about every month or every other month. However, we will be taking a break over the summer and we'll have new webinars starting in September. And we will be looking forward to presenting information on advocating with the T1D community in September. We also host a virtual connection series on the fourth Wednesday of each month. This is an unstructured opportunity to connect with others with type 1 diabetes or affected by type 1 diabetes, and there's no formal programming. And the next connection series actually is taking place tomorrow, Wednesday, May 28th at 12 p.m. and 7 p.m. Just a couple of things to remind you to please keep yourself on mute so that we can minimize background noise, that we are recording and we'll be posting this to our YouTube channel tomorrow. There is a raise hand button. If you need any clarification during the presentation, you're welcome to raise your hand. But we also have a chat function and we encourage any questions to be commented on in the chat and we will try to get to them time permitted. Mental health matters, especially for those living with diabetes, a chronic condition that requires countless decisions every day about food, rest, play, and more. People with diabetes are more likely to experience mental health challenges such as depression, anxiety, and eating disorders, and can benefit from interventions that prevent or treat these mental health conditions. Tonight, we're going to open with a brief overview of our mental health strategy, presented by Christine Turigny, our National Manager of Mental Health. And then we will turn it over to an open discussion with our guest speakers, Henri and Wang and Caleb Pope, who will provide tips and their coping strategies that have helped them better manage living with this chronic disease, and which we hope will also be helpful for those caring for someone living with type 1. Just tell you a little bit more about our speakers before I turn it over to Christine. Caleb was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 11. Despite the challenges of managing a chronic condition, she remained active and determined, going on to compete in provincial level sports throughout her adolescence. In her late teens, Caleb faced significant challenges with her mental health, experiences that deeply influenced her perspective and future direction. In her second year of university, she joined a focus group focused on the intersection of mental health and diabetes, an experience that introduced her to the world of research and ignited a lasting passion for advocacy in this space. Today, Caleb is pursuing a Master of Science in Experimental Medicine, where her research is dedicated to improving the mental health and well-being of people living with diabetes, all while continuing to explore her love for sports and the outdoors. Henri lives in Montreal and was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 30. He is now insulin dependent and follows a therapy that combines a continuous glucose monitor, his Dexcom, and insulin pens. He recently became a father, and he is a self-employed worker who took up cycling after his diagnosis to stay healthy. So we're grateful to both of them for being here tonight, and to Henri, who actually just came from our French event, so he's doing this in both languages. So thank you again, Henri. And just a reminder that we will not be able to answer any individual questions about personal mental health concerns, but we do hope that this will be an open and active discussion. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Christine.
Thank you, Ruth. So again, my name is Christine Tierney. I'm the National Manager of Mental Health Programs here at Breakthrough T1D Canada. As Ruth has mentioned, people with type 1 diabetes face a higher risk of mental health challenges across the board. Depression, anxiety, disordered eating, suicidal ideation, and substance use are all more common compared to the general population. One issue often experienced is diabetes distress, a unique chronic emotional burden that includes feelings of powerlessness, guilt, and relentless worry related to daily diabetes management. This is not a clinical diagnosis, but it is incredibly impactful. These issues can directly affect how people manage their diabetes and are linked to poor health outcomes, including higher A1C levels and increased complications. As Dr. Marie-Ève Robinson, a pediatric endocrinologist and researcher, highlights, T1D affects mental health in a profoundly unique way compared to other chronic conditions. This emphasizes the need for tailored approaches. To respond to these challenges, we launched our mental health strategy in September 2021, and it's grounded in 3 key pillars. Through funding research, we hope to advance understanding of diabetes-specific psychosocial interventions and their practical application. By training mental health providers, we aim to increase the health system's capacity to provide those living with diabetes specialized mental health support. And finally, we're engaging directly with the community to raise awareness about the importance of psychosocial issues in diabetes, supporting, educating, and empowering people with T1D, their caregivers, and diabetes care teams. Since 2021, we've provided funding research at the intersection of T1D and mental health. To date, we've invested $5 million across 9 research projects focused specifically on T1D and mental health. This investment has been made possible through strong partnerships with Brain Canada, the Canadian Institutes of Health Research, and Michael Smith Health Research BC. Our focus is on scalable digital mental health interventions that can extend support across geographies and communities. Examples of some of the funded research are Reach Out by Tricia Tang from the University of British Columbia. This project delivers virtual peer support via mobile app connecting adults with T1D in rural BC to trained peer mentors. Pregnancy in T1D by Dr. Deborah DaCosta from University of McGill. This study aims to understand how to best support women with T1D during one of life's most vulnerable times, pregnancy. We also have virtual peer networks by Dr. Holly Witteman from Université de Laval. Building on community and shared experience, this research is creating customized virtual peer support networks for people with T1D who share specific needs or interests. And finally, we also have the Youth Transition to Adult Care by Dr. Sonia Butalia from University of Calgary. This clinical trial uses a new transition model designed to improve the transition from pediatric to adult care and has already shown improved blood glucose levels in its Calgary pilot. We launched the Mental Health Diabetes Training Program in March 2023, designed to equip mental health providers with the knowledge and tools to better support individuals living with diabetes. To date, the program has seen strong engagement, with 907 mental health providers registered, as well as 1,150 additional participants, including family members, healthcare professionals, and others with a vested interest in diabetes and mental health. In September 2023, we launched the Mental Health and Diabetes Directory, a publicly accessible listing of providers who have completed the training. It now includes over 180 trained mental health professionals who are actively accepting new clients, helping to bridge a critical gap in access to specialized mental health support. Our Curriculum Development Committee published a peer review paper in the Canadian Journal of Diabetes, highlighting the early impact of the training program and validating its relevance and effectiveness in the Canadian mental health landscape. In 2024, we supported 5 active community grants projects focused on improving mental health for individuals living with type 1 diabetes. These projects reflect diverse community-led approaches tailored to the needs of people with type 1 diabetes. We also hosted bilingual webinars and community events addressing the intersection of disordered eating and T1D. These sessions reached more than 150 attendees, highlighting a strong interest in this important and often under-discussed topic. Now in 2025, we're currently summarizing the impact of the first round of funded community projects, gathering insights from grantees and communities served. These findings will help inform plans for the future of the program, ensuring it continues to meet the evolving mental health needs of the T1D community. Also, earlier this month, we launched a new video series focused on mental health and T1D, following an expressed need for honest conversations on this topic from our T1D community. The series features 5 individuals at different life stages in their T1D journeys who share their personal stories, their struggles, their successes, and the strategies they use to navigate the challenges of living with this chronic disease. And with that, we would like to share the promo reel for these series. So I do hope that you enjoy it, and I thank you very, very much.
There's a lot of shame, guilt, anger. I mean, I still have moments where I completely break down.
Are we teaching people to be ashamed? And that part also leads to the mental health stigma that a lot of people don't even want to admit they're diabetics.
I keep hearing, you're just like everyone else. You can do all these things. And like, there's a reality to some of this stuff that is worth talking about too.
I really do think you're just learning every single day and finding new information about yourself.
Grace costs you nothing, whether it's for yourself or it's for someone else. It's just doesn't cost a cent, and it helps a lot.
Thank you, Christine. And so before we turn it over to Henri and Caleb, did anyone have any questions about our mental health strategy and the research that we're helping to fund? No. Well, if you think of anything later, just post it in the chat and we can answer it later on. Oh. I will put the link to the directory in the chat for you, Mira, and you can find trained providers through our program through that directory link. So I'll do that for you now. And then I'd like to turn it over to Henri, who will share a little bit about his experiences being diagnosed as an adult and his journey through both his physical and mental health with type 1.
Thank you, Ruth. Appreciate that the video and all the effort you're doing for mental health and T1D. As you said earlier, I was diagnosed at the age of 30. It's been 4 years now. It was quite a shock when I received the diagnosis because I was the first in my family to receive this diagnosis, and not me or anyone in my immediate circle knew about the impact of this diagnosis on my future life, I would say. And even I would say, even though I knew it was a big change that was going to happen, I didn't fully understand how it was going to impact every little element of my life. Now I realize, it's in every aspect of my routine, and I was able to really learn to manage all those aspects. Really, I think it's basic, but by preparing, researching about the impact of the glucose, and also by being, I would say, transparent with my friends about how it was changing my day to day, and by being upfront right away with them, I feel like they were able to support me very quickly, being more attentive to me, and as you said, I started cycling right after my diagnosis. My friend got me into cycling, and it was a challenge at first. I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it because with so many things to learn at the same time, so many impacts, but at least, I had friends that were patient, because when I was getting a low sugar glucose, so they were stopping and taking care of and to see if I was handling everything well. So what I'm trying to say is I think having a trusted circle of friends that understand your diagnosis is key, to really manage the mental part or mental aspect of this the sickness. And even though right now, and I've all since the beginning, I was going to say always been, but it's only been 4 years. Um, um, I've always been very careful about managing my blood glucose. I'm someone that likes to manage his reference zone very tightly. But being a new father now, I'm learning to be a bit more indulgent or forgiving myself a bit more now that I can't control anything. And again, I believe it helps to have a good social circle. I said friends earlier, but family as well, that are there to support you when they see that you're tired or preoccupied by maybe not being able to manage everything as you expect, and to take things in perspective and just sometimes dematras. I'm not sure how to say it in English, but making less, um, as a it's not always as important as we think. Sometimes it's okay to have some days that are bad and some days that are good. So just to be more accepting of, it's part of your life now. Yeah. So that's my story, I would say, with T1D. Yeah.
How did you become involved with Breakthrough T1D and the mental health program?
I was really at the beginning. I was searching for information, and originally, so I didn't knew that GDRF used to exist. I found GDRF, reached out to people, and then I understood that you guys were helping and financing a lot of programs that help. Among them, I think it's the Type 1 Better project. You're helping. It was very helpful, and when you guys reached out to me to see if I wanted to get involved into the mental health side, I felt it was very important because in the first year of my diagnosis, there were some moments where it was a bit more difficult. I wanted to maybe ask for professional help, and I did. But unfortunately, at the time, my endo was not able to provide any references because even her, the only resources she had was overload, and she didn't have any option to provide. So I guess when you launch the registry, or I'm not sure what they say it in English, but the the repertoire of santé mentale in diabetes, I think it really answers a need, because at that time, if it existed, I'm sure I would have gone for it and maybe talked to someone that would have helped me more. Yeah.
Thank you. And Caleb, if you're ready, I'll turn it over to you.
Lovely. Hello. Thanks for the intro, and thank you, Henri, for sharing your story. So as stated, my name is Caleb, and what brings me here today is my personal journey with type 1 diabetes, and more specifically, navigating the mental health challenges while living with such a tricky condition. When I was first diagnosed at the age of 11, I was in the middle of a competitive soccer season. I was playing in the BC Premier League. Commuting from Vernon to Vancouver, that's in BC, so about 4.5 hours away from each other on the weekends, and training daily with the soccer academy. It was a time when I was just beginning to gain independence through sport, but was suddenly met with this unexpected diagnosis that brought a new challenge of wanting to hold on to that independence I was gaining while managing a condition that demanded constant attention. And at that time, we did not have the continuous glucose monitors, so my parents couldn't check my blood sugars when I was on the team bus or in the hotel room. But we made it work, and with their support, I did feel confident managing things, even if it wasn't always perfect. I felt self-sufficient, like I could do anything, and I didn't feel different. I was proud to manage my diabetes and to share my story. I was like a mini advocate. But for the many of us, that surface level confidence was really only part of the picture for me. And I don't even think I realized it at that point. In my late teens, I experienced a traumatic event that really changed everything for me. I began to develop really harmful patterns, both physically and emotionally. And at that time, I didn't have the tools to understand how that trauma was impacting my diabetes or my ability to cope. So I didn't know how to talk about what I was going through. And I did not realize that diabetes could actually increase my risk of experiencing mental health challenges and the danger of their decline that kind of came hand in hand. So I started hiding my emotions behind this independence I gained through sport, pretending things were okay, but slowly declining mental health and management wise. And while keeping a tough front and hiding behind different reasons for my increasingly concerning A1C levels. I did continue playing sports throughout this. I made an unexpected switch over to rugby following a foot surgery from a soccer injury, and that got my A1C back in check. So I began playing provincial rugby. It was intense, but again, I loved the sport. I loved the freedom. And in reality, I really was using a piece of that independence to avoid what I was really feeling and how much was going on in my life that was unresolved. Eventually, my deflecting did catch up with me. One weekend during a training session, I didn't realize my insulin pump had been leaking since our early morning wake up. And by the time I got home, I was in diabetic ketoacidosis. I was barely conscious, and my mom quickly took me to emergency. I ended up spending, I would say, around 3 weeks in the intensive care unit. And what no one knew at the time was that not taking insulin had become slightly purposeful. I discovered that when my blood sugars were in range, I'd gain weight back. And in my mind, that was worse than the hospital visits. I was using my diabetes to self-harm. And again, something that you never think could happen. If I hadn't been in that cycle, I would have checked my blood sugars. I would have noticed my pump leak. So while it was really a combination of a lot of things happening, the real root of it was mental health. I definitely felt ashamed. I felt like I was the only one struggling, and I believed and was told I was a bad diabetic. I was being hospitalized and stopped seeing my care team, and I had another episode of DKA in my first year of university, yet not once was I asked in those spaces how I was doing mentally. It was more a frustration that I was that age and mismanaging my diabetes. My care team didn't connect the dot between my diabetes and mental health, and neither did I. And my parents, again, cared so deeply, but like many, they didn't realize that emotional distress and diabetes could be so intertwined. And given how I used to be, I certainly was not going to go upstairs one day and just say, hey, I think I'm struggling with a mental illness, or I think this is happening. But luckily, that did all change in 2021 when I received a letter inviting me to join Dr. Tricia Tang's focus group on emotional stress and type 1 diabetes. And I'd never seen those two words in the same sentence before. I was very eager to participate. And sitting in that group and hearing adults share their stories that felt so close to my own was groundbreaking. It was really the first time I truly felt seen, just being with my community. I realized I was not alone. I was not a failure. I was simply a person with diabetes who had been emotionally and physically drained. And that group really was a turning point for me, both mentally and academically. I joined as a research assistant shortly after. And for the first time in years, I saw an endocrinologist again. I was terrified and afraid of judgment and being misunderstood, but instead I was luckily met with compassion, and my mental health was not brushed aside. It was part of the conversation, and it was really another one of those aha moments for me, just like that group. And that was also around the time I learned about Dr. Leung's work, supporting adolescents with type 1 as they navigate transitions to adult care. And I saw firsthand how the system and how programs like that Breakthrough Diabetes is supporting, really can support people and care to be proactive and empowering and can be focused on the whole person. And now I do have the immense privilege of doing research focused on the mental health of adolescents and adults with type 1 diabetes, still under the supervision of Dr. Tang, and with Breakthrough Diabetes on their mental health directory evaluation study. So I am very grateful to get to speak at events like this, not because my story is perfectly resolved, but because I'm still learning and still healing, deeply committed to being the support that I really needed at that time. And I'm passionate about making sure that no one ever feels like they're the only ones struggling, because you're not. So we can really work to build a community that acknowledges the emotional weight of our condition and just hope to create a space for honesty and compassion and connection. But that is my story. I don't know if we had any questions or experience there, but thanks for giving me the space to share.
Thank you so much, Caleb. That was really powerful, and appreciate you being as open and vulnerable to share that with everybody. Gonna spotlight Henri as well for both of you to open up the floor if there's any questions. I saw we had a comment in the chat from Linda speaking about from someone who's a long-term T1D to making that transition from not using technology to using technology. And maybe both of you can talk a little bit more about how you managed to find trust in devices as well, and how you were able to make that transition. Henri from never having used it, and Caleb from starting off, I imagine, without it and transitioning onto it.
Would you like me to start, Caleb, or
Sure.
would you prefer
Yes,
to go
either way,
ahead?
go ahead.
Yeah. For me, in terms of technology, I'm using a GCM, but I'm still using insulin pen to manage my diabetes. And the GCM is really life-changing, I would say, because right away, when you're doing sport, it's very helpful. You have your glucose, just in the palm of your hand, or now on my bike computer when I go cycling. So it's really perfect. So, and I would say prevent or just have some strategies in terms of carbs I need to eat in advance. I did try the insulin pump. For me, it was not a fit, unfortunately. I cannot say if it's because I tried to do too many things at the same time, because I just got a newborn at home, and I decided to go for the pump, and it was presented to me like a very easy solution that will you know uh, let's say, how can I say that? Just put everything add to think about a way, but still I had to manage a lot of things with the pump. So for me, it was a very stressful moment. I decided not to pursue for now, maybe later in my later ahead. But I think sometimes you have to trust the strategy you already know, and just if you have a method that works well for you, continue with that until it doesn't work anymore. So this is my story with technology and diabetes. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I can't imagine trying to start an insulin pump while also having a newborn. I put my insulin pump transition on pause when I was busy with school, so I can't imagine having a whole tiny human. So understandable, but I'm also on injections right now and
Okay.
transitioning. I really see that piece on technology causing anxiety, and it almost felt like something that I was hesitant to talk about before, because we are so grateful and there are so many amazing technological advancements. But it is important to acknowledge how much sleep you miss when you have those alarms, and almost like, what do boundaries look like with your technology? Because you always want to be checking it. You always want to be looking at it. It is wonderful, but it's also important to remember that, say, when we were doing the finger pricks, you wouldn't be able to see that your blood sugars were kind of slightly elevating after that meal, and then they would calm down. And I call it rage bolusing. But I find that sometimes I will have that angry injection if I see that I'm shooting up, and all along I just had to wait. So I guess with my transition to it, it was really ensuring that I'm being easy on myself, because it seemed better before, on the traditional meters. When you're having the CGM, it's just, you're a human. It's not going to be perfect. We live with type 1 diabetes. Sometimes you're going to have bad days, but don't beat yourself up over a bad graph or whatever may be causing that anxiety. But definitely an important piece to touch on, for sure.
A couple of things that came up in the chat. Caleb, Sue mentioned, pardon me, you using the word shamed, and particularly the fear that you had some concern around stigma around your healthcare providers, and feeling like what you were experiencing was a failure of management as opposed to a failure of recognizing what you were dealing with at the time. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on about that, and how you learned to advocate for yourself with your healthcare providers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a great question. It definitely, I felt like I was trying to say something, but at that point, it's very easy to feel like you're the smallest voice in the room and that you're not being heard. So although it was kind of, in my eyes, I was hinting at my mental health being brought up, I really felt it was brushed to the side. And I think I was being shamed. And also, I think to them, it was almost like I was too lazy to do anything and making these excuses, when in reality, it was a clear just scream for someone to ask or recognize another piece than recognize me as a number. So that is kind of why I stopped going, was that, again, embarrassment, being judged, the stigma, again, having those body issues that come up, because I didn't want to be recognized as someone that could have type 2 diabetes. I had type 1. It was all of those things. But I think what really helped with advocating was going into spaces, and again, the big piece was realizing that I was not alone in my journey. It was speaking with others and saying, oh my gosh, okay, everyone has bad days. No one can be this perfect person, or different people have these different stories. But it's not like there's this whole list of people that are perfectly managing their condition and then you walk in. It was that all these things are going, and they want to help you. That is what they're there for. So when I clearly just said, hey, this is happening with my new endocrinologist, that immediately became our point of discussion, and that continues to be a point of discussion when we first join those calls. So although it can be uncomfortable, I think it is just taking the step, or the courage for that just one uncomfortable conversation, to then have that brought into light, that is something that can significantly impact your days. But you won't necessarily bring it up or remember that was a really hard time when you're looking at 3 months of data.
I'd love to share more information on my side, Kellen, but on my side, I didn't have those problems with my endocrinologist. I'm fortunate to, and I'm crossing my finger that I will always have someone that is very I would say human in her approach, while managing, the I would say the diagnose and the T1D. But yeah, I guess it must be very hard when someone is only seeing numbers and not the human behind or the patient behind those numbers. Yeah.
So I see Darren has his hand up, but we had a question. There's a few questions I want to get to, but I'm going to get to Mike first, who just wants to speak a little bit more to the stigma aspect of diabetes and how that may have impacted both of you at any time in your journey. I know, Marie, it's a little bit more recent for you, and you did mention that you were open with sharing with your friends and family, but did you find that a hard conversation to have? Caleb, same question to you.
For me at the beginning was a bit hard because I was coping with this news, and every time I was telling I got this new diagnosis, people were giving me example of professional sports players and saying, "Don't worry, if they can do it, you can do it." And at that time, I was more thinking about, I don't have the same team behind me to to do what they do. So give me time just to to learn how to manage it. That was, I think, the biggest stigma at the face, and that it's not something that big. It's just something like it's just an injection you have to do and manage your glucose. But yeah, I think you have to be courageous and just say things as they are and explain the complexity of managing T1D, the impact, and and I'm not sure if it's the right term, but keeping your ground when people are not sure, uh, and say no, but trying to diminish a bit what you're saying because they don't know. They just want to sometimes make you feel well and saying it's not that big of an impact, but at the end of the day, you're the one living it, so you have to, yeah, to stand your ground, I think. Yeah. And the other thing I would say about the stigma was more, yeah, for sure there's some, I would say, uh, there's some people saying bad stuff when they see your monitors, and but at the end of the day, you have to keep your, let's say, go on with your day, your journey, and those people, if they're not educated enough to know what it is, it's their problem. That's the way I see it, but that's the way I am. I know it's different for everyone. Yeah. Mm. Khaled, do you want to add anything on your side about the stigma of the diagnosis? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess in my adolescence, it wasn't necessarily something that I was very concerned with, but definitely as I got into my late teens and onwards, it's something that I thought about kind of again, where people would see diabetes and immediately it's just correcting them and ensuring that you're not part of whatever stigma or idea they've created in their head. And what really has been most helpful to me is instead just education. And that's what we kind of say in our adolescent training shops is if you have the energy that day to say to someone, yep, this is the small difference between them. I have this one, then there's this one. I find that that's such a great way to go. But yeah, definitely can still be tough to work with. You can always have those days where you might be drained by other things and you don't want other people commenting on a condition that they could never understand. And it is tricky, but like Henri said, it's something where you kind of unfortunately just have to go along with your day and let people have their opinions. But I do find that before I used to laugh it off with just some humor, making fun of myself, and I was really contributing to my own battles that I was facing with that stigma. So instead, I do just like to say, hey, yeah, this happened. I was diagnosed with this. This is about it. Anyways, yeah, what's next? So yeah, that was my experience with it. Definitely had a hard time, but yeah, education is power. And if you have a quick blurb ready, I think it's a great way to just deflect that.
I think probably everyone on this call has had someone comment on they're eating candy or something that's got a lot of carbs or sugar in it. And even if it's well-meaning and the intentions are good, if it's received poorly, it doesn't matter what the intentions were. And I know that's part of what we do here at Breakthrough T1D is to try to educate what the difference between type 1 and type 2 is. But at the end of the day, it's not for anyone else to comment on somebody else's condition, like you said, Caleb. And Darren, I can see you have your hand up if you wanted to unmute yourself.
I do. And to see if I can.
There you are. We can hear you.
I instead of just chatting, I put something in the chat because I typed terribly. I thought I'd actually say just a couple things if I can. First of all, thank Caleb and Ani for sharing your stories. So powerful. I'm sure all the rest of us on the call who have T1D have lived some, if not all, of those experiences. And as you were telling your stories, it brought together for me a whole bunch of experiences that I've had. I've had T1D for 50 years. I still have those moments where I feel the stigma. Some of it's, my own self. It's like, oh, why is my blood sugar high? Oh, I'm doing this. I love my technology and I hate my technology. And something that both of you said really struck me. And so I have been on a pump. I've not been on a pump. I've been on a CGM. I was not on a CGM. I really feel like we're often told that this is the therapy. And over many years of experience, my view is that no, there isn't any one therapy. There's no one therapy for me, much less every person who has diabetes, right? You got to figure out what works for you in the moment. And I was on a pump for a long time, and then I took it off because I wanted to go sailing one summer. And I was like, yeah, that was a better gig for me. Doing multiple daily injections worked better. And then, ended up back on a pump because I wanted a CGM. And despite having great days, I still have crappy ones. And it is, Caleb, your comment about grace, so powerful, right? Like you have to have grace for yourself. And if other people aren't supporting you, then you have to figure out a way, which is, I appreciate, easy to say, but it's either ignore them, get them out of your life, tell them to SHUTUP, because it's our own self-talk, right? Like is so hard, and we say things to ourselves. Anyway, you guys are amazing, and good luck in your ongoing journeys.
Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate all of your kind words, and also that is something that I don't think I even considered when I was saying it, but that self-talk. And I think you really just captured what I was trying to put out there, was just how you change that. And when you do, even it can be so hard when we get those days with the bad blood sugars, how much it can change how you live your life with diabetes. And very cool that you went sailing. That's incredible.
Judy mentioned feeling a lot of stress when she's got to adjust to unplanned events because of the need to have everything scheduled and in place, and you can't just leave the house. You have to leave the house with all of your supplies and make sure that you have everything. And do you have any strategies to deal with when things change last minute, or when something goes unplanned, and how do you adjust to that? And any strategies you might be able to share with Judy?
Oh, I can go, or you, doesn't matter.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll go after.
Yeah, I would definitely say that when I was not really the best with my care, I would kind of just go to those unplanned events and have to deal with the consequences, which I quickly found out was not the way to do things when you have such a complicated condition. But it definitely is frustrating. That's another one of those things where I kind of have to sometimes take that breather and go, okay, a plan has changed and now we have to move forward with it. But although when I am going to different activities or doing different things, and generally I would just pack my bag for that, now I like to have that almost little emergency pack where, say, it would be nicer to have Dex tabs, but I know that I have that bag right at my door that has all of like a backup tester in it, a backup juice box, all the things I would need. I do grab that. So I guess my strategy, and I'm not sure if this is entirely answering your question, my strategy is almost kind of having that emergency kit ready. And ideally, I just get to have my things planned and go about my day. But sometimes I need to have that pack that has the backup to all of the backups, just to ensure that I am keeping up with whatever the schedule is, planned or unplanned.
It is a tough question that would to answer, because for me as well, when the unplanned arrive, you just, I think I just kind of accept it and either go back if I can, take my things, or just yeah, I'm living with the consequences, as you said, Caleb. But for me, my strategy, and for a long time, I and still, when I go out of my house, I'm kind of walking around with a fanny pack with with all of my things in it, with an air tag in it, and so when I forget my things somewhere, I can find it back and go back to get my things. But that's I would say, the only strategy I would say. Have to make sure I have my things with me if I need to. Yeah.
I had a couple, I put some links in the chat because we had some questions from parents and grandparents about how they can best support their children and their grandchildren. So these are some of our programs that we offer with peer support and mentoring. The Connection series, which is actually happening tomorrow, but it's every month, which is unstructured talk for adults and caregivers, and then our Facebook group. But I thought, Christine, to address that question a little bit as well, if you could talk about the training program, because that is open to family members.
Absolutely. So the mental health and diabetes training program is actually broken up into two different streams. We have a stream that's very targeted towards the mental health providers, and those are the ones who will go through the entire training. They'll have a final exam at the end, and then we have a live session where they can go ahead and apply the knowledge that they've gained during the e-learning towards case studies. And then from there, those individuals who complete the course can then apply for our directory. Now, the other stream is the non-mental health provider stream, and that stream is made up of healthcare providers, but it's also made up of individuals living with diabetes, either type 1, type 2, or the various different kinds of diabetes. It's also available to family members who want to better support those living with diabetes, as well as any kind of AIDS or what have you. So the mental health and diabetes program is actually open to everybody. It's absolutely free. Ruth has put it in the chat. It's a very interesting program. It's not just text going through, but there's a lot of audio and there's a lot of video of individuals with personal experience that can be found within the learning. It's made up into 6 modules. We do cover diabetes basics, but then we go further into discussions about different diabetes distress and transition. We have all kinds of different conversations within those modules. So I think if you haven't taken the course, it's worth it. It's at your own rhythm. You have complete access, even if you finish afterwards. But I do think it's a very important program to have. And it's very interesting to understand the aspects, even if you've been living with diabetes. We do have a lot of people who have taken the program, have been living with diabetes for many, many years, and have taken it and come back to us and said, did not know that. That is something very interesting and good to know. So I highly recommend it. And if you have any questions about the program whatsoever, or even the directory, I'm here for that.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. And I'm also responding to a question in the chat at the same time. I am multitasking. So apologies for that. But there were a few questions, again, like we were just discussing about how to be a better support as a parent and a grandparent. So if there is anyone who's on the chat now who would like to unmute themselves and offer anything that they wanted to share with the group, I'm also just commenting on Pat Shermer, who chimed in. He's 81 years old and has lived with T1D for 63 years and is still out hiking and being active. So thank you for sharing that. That's extremely impressive. But if there was anyone that would like to share some of their strategies as a parent or a grandparent, please feel free to unmute yourself in the last 10 minutes or so that we have and share with the group. Yes, Connected Emotion is also, thank you for putting that in the chat, Caroline, is also a really good resource.
Mm-hmm. Definitely the perspective from having just supportive family and living with diabetes. Just because seeing that comment made me immediately think of a comment that my mom made last week. But like anyone, I can be forgetful. I can forget things. And I remember I'd forgotten something and had to run back. And we were kind of laughing that if I was traveling for 2 months, by the end, I would just have like myself. And she just said, yeah, but she has a lot more than us to think about. And just her saying that and acknowledging how much more that person does have to think about, or if they do mess up or something happens, it's always just such a relief when I feel like there's that understanding between us that I never feel like I'm a burden for it. Similar time, like, well, I don't get mad at my friends if they have to run back and grab their keys. I don't get mad at them if these things happen. So although it can definitely be a personality trait like me at times, that was a point when I'd already had a Ruffalo that day and I was groggy packing stuff up. And I think really just hearing someone just break that and say, oh, but also this. Also, none of us live what they live through every day, but in a lighthearted way, I think was a great way where I really felt that I was supported and was like, yeah, I might forget everything, but you guys don't have 300 other things to think about. So that was my little piece.
Chelsea asks how to support your kid if she at 33 years old asks to join a mental health talk on diabetes with her about 3 hours before it starts. Please do. Hi, Mom. I don't think she's reading the chat, but she's in here. Oh. Well, I think you're supporting her by being part of this call, Chelsea. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I think you're doing it already.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say being here is amazing and having family supporting you. I see my auntie in the room. Hello, Auntie Kim.
Just going through to see if there were any questions that I missed.
I did see one, and it was surrounding someone going from the pediatric to adult care and how to find a good endo. And I don't know if there's a website for resources because I know at University of Calgary, they do the transition workshop, and then at BC Children's, I'm also part of that transition workshop there. But if they did want to talk about information, or if I can grab the PowerPoint that we present to pediatric patients from BC Children's, I can absolutely send it over for them, just of the expectations and kind of what goes on from, Dr. Leung over there.
Emerson, are you still on the call? And maybe you could let us know where you are, if you wanted to unmute yourself, where you are in the country.
I am in Alberta and specifically in Calgary.
All right. Let's see if, I don't know, do you guys have more information about the stuff at?
I'm not sure. I put in the link to the Type 1 Better Transitions page, but I don't think we have access to that. But
okay.
Emerson, I'm going to put my email in the chat and then I can connect you with Caleb to get that information about BC. No, sorry, it was Alberta.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to share that because it can be tricky.
And okay, oh no, all the questions are coming in quickly now. Mindy wants to know how to treat a low during exercise in the outdoors, such as running or cycling. Henri, I don't know if you've encountered that or not, but
yeah, a few times. It's for sure it's best if you can catch it before and looking at your GCM. But there's two things I bring with me when I go cycling, or I used to bring with me because it's either one of them now. There's there's the small bottles that you receive with your good food package. Sometimes I'm not sure if you guys know, so I kept them, and I'm always filling some of them up with maple syrup. So that's helpful when I get a low when cycling, and I can manage to continue my ride while I'm cycling. Even I try to catch it before for sure, but manage my ride. And the other thing is I'm bringing always some small small candy packs. I'm buying them at Costco. The Mutts stations. It's 19 grams. I can always bring a bunch of them in my pockets and eat some of them as I think it's good, because since there's always 8 of them in the pack, it's 19 grams. I can divide and really be specific in the right amount I need to take during my ride. So yes, I think that's, I would say, the best thing. And if you go for long ride, try to mix it. For me, it's always trying to mix it with some things that is more complex, like bread before, that is going to be digested more slowly than just quick sugar that is hitting a spot and just making you spike right away. Yeah.
Ted,
But
did you want to?
I'm not a
sorry.
nutritionist, so
No. Ted, did you want to unmute yourself to ask your question?
Well, I just want to say I think Henri is getting a good handle on this, and I'll just quickly say I've been physically active for the last almost 50 years of type 1 diabetes. I started out as a couple of other people on here, all you had was a stick to pee on. And the way I controlled myself was when there was color on that urine stick, I got out running and I ran until that stick showed no color. So that made sure that my blood sugar was below 10, because wouldn't be passing sugar into my urine. But I just, Henri, your comment about maple syrup, maple syrup is really ideal, especially for people who are being active for hours on end. And I was a marathon canoeer and runner and cyclist. And so the point I want to make is that I think those bottles that you're referring to, they're about 15 grams, maybe a little bit less of sugar, whereas a bottle filled with maple syrup is closer to 70 grams. So, in terms of a tight supply and easy to down, the maple syrup is really great.
Yeah, I definitely second the syrup. That I'm sure with marathon canoeing, you would definitely encounter some crazy lows there.
I'll just end by saying, you guys are encouraging me to tell my story. And I'll just give you a sense. So it's 1979 and I've just been diagnosed. It's January. I was on my way to get a job start a job. I'd done an interview and they found a position for me. I had to stop and go to the hospital because I was diagnosed with diabetes. And so when I got to the office a week later, their question was, well, what does this mean? And I don't know. And all I could say is I didn't know. So they weren't going to hire me. They were going to hire me temporarily. And so then 2 months after that, so I've had diabetes for 3 months. They asked me to go on an expedition to Melville Island in the high Arctic. And so a month later, I'm walking in a skidoo suit underneath a down parka, like a spacesuit on Bridport Inlet, camped on 8 feet of ice. We set up our own camp. So you get a sense of, where I am in total seclusion. And 3 weeks later, the expedition was completed, and I went back to the office in Toronto and they said, okay, you're hired. So there's a long story behind that and what I went through to do that. But you've encouraged me to tell my story, and the challenging and mistakes and the the positive things that have occurred. Exercise, in my view, is so key. Find something fun to do, something you really like, maybe can even be passionate about. I think it makes control much easier, and it doesn't have to be intense. The difference between sitting down and just walking is substantial. That's it. I'm done for now.
No, no, thank you. I appreciate that so much, Ted, and that you felt willing to share and encouraged based on the call. So thank you for that. And getting up and walking is good for everybody. So always encourage people to get up from the chair and move around a little bit, even though we've all been sitting for the last hour. But just before we wrap it up, I just want to see if there are any last questions. I don't think so. I think we covered everything. And I want to thank everyone for being so engaged in the chat and sharing some of your tips as well. That's really helpful. And I really want to thank both of you so much for sharing and for being open and talking about your own experiences and what you've done to help mitigate some of those challenges. And as Caleb said, it's an ongoing process that you continue to do as much as you can and do your best every day. And that's all anyone can do. So thank you so much to both of you. Thank you, Christine. And I put my email in the chat if anyone has any questions that they think of later that they want to ask, and we can do our best to address them as they come in. This will be recorded and we'll send it out to everybody tomorrow. And with that, I'll let everybody get back to their evenings. So thank you so much for joining us, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great evening.